Entering the Mayo Experience.
That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. That Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, Week 7 rankings update and complete injury and this week transaction report. If you're looking for the DraftKings pivot plays and how these injuries affect DraftKings for Week 7, check out the DraftKings Ownership Projection Show I did with Jeff Ulrich up on the audio and video feed right now. If you want to see the updated rankings, hit the description. All the links to all the rankings at every position up there right now. For a $20 DraftKings giveaway to get into that draw, remember, smash the like button, enter your DraftKings handle in the comment section, and let me know where you think Nick Chubb would rank in a rest of the season ranking right now at running back from this point forward. I'm curious to know what the people's thoughts on this are, whether they like him, whether they like Duke Johnson. We'll talk about that here in a second, but first of all, I want you to do that just to see what the public thinks about how Nick Chubb would rank from this point forward. Let's get into the injuries. And actually, you know what? Let's start with the trade. The big thing is the Cleveland Browns shipped off Carlos Hyde to Jacksonville for a 5th-round pick. So from a Jacksonville perspective, it does not look like Carlos Hyde is going to play this week. He will form a committee with TJ Yeldon at least until Leonard Fournette returns. And then, who the hell knows? Right now, it did seem like because of this trade, it seemed kind of panicky that Leonard Fournette would probably be placed on IR with a hamstring injury, something like that. But reports out of Jacksonville says that he can return after the Jags bye week. So he could be back on the field week 9, week 10. So it's really confusing of why they were going to do this. As a part of Carlos Hyde's contract, if they cut him after the season, they're not really in the hole all that much, so it's not that big of a deal if you consider it from a monetary perspective. But in terms of how this is going to shake down for the rest of the season, you got Fournette, you got Hyde, you got Yeldon. When they're all healthy, they're probably all going to get touches. This might just be a way to limit the amount of usage that Fournette's going to get. So you have to downgrade all of them. Yeldon was going to be a backup unless Fournette was hurt anyway. So for this week, he's still going to rank rather highly. This will be the last week of TJ Yeldon, barring any other injuries, and expect Carlos Hyde to jump in after the bye or wherever the hell they're doing in Jacksonville. I really don't know. More importantly, on the Cleveland side of things, this now opens up Nick Chubb and Duke Johnson. Both are pickups if they're somehow available on your waiver wire. Nick Chubb is available in like 70% of Yahoo leagues, so instantly go and get him. Where is he going to rank for the rest of the season? It's a bit more difficult to know because, as we've seen, the Browns are not the best team in football. They are losing a lot of the time, and we've especially seen this the past 2 weeks as it pertains to Carlos Hyde versus Duke Johnson. Duke Johnson was playing over 50% of the snaps because Baker Mayfield was in a lot of passing situations, and any time that the Browns are going to be in passing situations, then Duke Johnson is going to be on the field. In terms of carries, Nick Chubb's going to out-carry Duke Johnson like 20-1 because Duke Johnson never carries the ball, or very rarely carries the ball. You can count on him for like 3 to 6 carries a week, but it's that part of the passing game where Duke Johnson really shines. So you can expect him to see probably an uptick of like 4, 5, 6 targets per week. They're both going to be viable in both standard and PPR formats. I would expect Nick Chubb to handle the majority or all of the goal line work. So that does make him more valuable, but I think his upside is capped because of this role of Duke Johnson, unless all of a sudden the Browns offense just starts rolling, and they're putting up like 40 points a week, then they're both going to have value, and Nick Chubb's going to be super great. But in terms of actual volume on a week-to-week basis, Chubb, you're probably looking at a top 20 running back the rest of the season, a mid-tier to low-end running back too. Maybe if he gets himself more involved into the passing game, or at least just a little bit, just to take away a little bit from Duke Johnson. Then you're talking about high-end running back 2, potential low-end running back 1, but I feel like that's really in the high end of his range of outcomes. He's someone you can play every week moving forward. This week, where they're 3.5-point dogs in Tampa, I would expect to see Duke Johnson on the field a little bit more, so I've ranked them accordingly. Duke Johnson now comes in number 20 in the running back rankings. Nick Chubb comes in at number 22. Both playable. I think that Duke Johnson at least has a better floor than Chubb this week. You'd have to rely on a touchdown or 2 from Chubb to really getting peak value, where Duke Johnson can just be a cog in the receiving game because Rashard Higgins is going to be out. We've seen Callaway and Jarvis Landry really struggle to turn their targets into actual receptions. In fact, last week it was Damian Ratley, who is a sleeper play again this week with Rashard Higgins out, that he's the only one who can convert any of these things. And David Njoku seeing the most targets in this offense. So it's a real cluster F. clusterfuck. Let's be real here in the Cleveland offense. So don't go thinking that you've picked up Nick Chubb. All of a sudden you have a top 5 running back in football. He's someone great to have. Definitely a pickup, as is Duke Johnson. Much better than the Jacksonville guys moving forward beyond this week, but it's not like a smash this guy's going to produce for you every single week. So temper expectations just a tad when it comes down to it. Let's go to Oakland, where it's being reported that Marshawn Lynch could miss at least a month. There's talk about him being placed on injured reserve as well, coming out of their bye week. That leaves Doug the Pug Martin and Jalen Rocket Richard coming out of their backfield now. I would expect Doug Martin, despite being awful, is the one who's going to get first crack for all the carries, but I'm not really too interested in Doug Martin. I'm not really super interested in a lot of this Raiders running game to begin with. Richard is the one that I would want. He's the one seeing the field anytime they're trailing in games, which, spoiler alert, is a lot. So Jalen Richard would be the pickup for me. I have want nothing to do with Doug Martin because he sucks and he is washed up. So Jalen Richard for me in that scenario. In Atlanta, Calvin Ridley returned to a limited practice on Friday. Mohamed Sanu with his hip injury did not practice on Friday, leaving more target share for Austin Hooper, potentially Justin Hardy should he sit. Now, Saturday is going to be the big day for all the Atlanta and New York Giants players because it looks like Evan Ingram could return this week as well from his injury, but we're not going to know till Monday night. So I've severely downgraded Mohamed Sanu in my rankings because if we don't know whether he's going to play or not, or if he's a game time decision, unless you have Justin Hardy on your team, which isn't that great of a fill-in, to be perfectly honest with you, is that you're going to have to make that decision on Sunday. And not knowing and potentially taking a 0 in this spot has to affect the rankings a little bit. So I've dropped him down to the low 30s. I've kept Ridley in the mid 20s and Julio obviously up near the top as it pertains to that. Ito Smith and Tevin Coleman, with Coleman seeing a larger share of the backfield, is the running back plays for the Falcons this week because Devonta Freeman, obviously on injured reserve, will not be back for quite some time. In Denver, in the Thursday night game, Royce Freeman rolled his ankle. It was initially reported as a high ankle sprain. No MRI has been done yet initially. If it was a high ankle sprain, that's like a 4 to 8 week injury. But now they're saying that he could play in week 8. This is almost the scenario that we got ourselves into with Matt Breida a few weeks ago, where initially it looked like it was awful. Then all of a sudden, Breida's out on the field. So temper expectations there. There's no real pickup to be had because everyone owns Phillip Lindsay in the circumstances. If you play in a deeper PPR league, this could mean more snap share for Devontae Booker, who only catches passes out of the backfield. Not a great pickup, but if you're in dire straits or you need someone to fill in for Royce Freeman, because you had to play him every week and you got no one else, Booker is someone that you can kind of dial up. On the other side of the ball, Josh Rosen got hurt on like the last play of the game, hurt his toe. It looks like Mike Glennon could actually start in week 8. That's bad news for everyone. Mike McCoy was fired as the offensive coordinator, so hopefully that can unleash David Johnson just a little bit, but we'll see. I don't know if David Johnson's ever going to return. People are holding out hopes like, oh, you start using David Johnson a little bit better, and boom, he's a top 3 running back again. No, that's probably not going to be the case, but he's not been as bad as people have liked to point to. He has clearly not been as good as where you drafted him, but he hasn't been like an absolute bust by any means either. He's still scoring touchdowns and seeing the ball a ton. Hopefully this gets him more involved in the passing game to help normalize his stats from a consistency point of view on a week-to-week basis. And then, hey, he's a low-end running back 1, high-end running back 2, and you just go on from there. Hopefully you drafted well with the rest of your team. In New Orleans, Ted Ginn has been put on injured reserve, so that opens up room in this offense for Traquan Smith, for Cam Meredith, who was taken off the injury report, and Austin Carr, plus the tight ends, Josh Hill and Ben Watson. On the Monday nighter before the bye, against Washington, the snap share shook out as Traquan, 67%, Cam Meredith, 45%, Austin Carr, 21%. In the Saints offense, it's not a great matchup this week against the Ravens, but projecting forward, Traquan Smith would be the one I would want to own in that situation. In Houston, all the receivers have been taking off the injury report, so they're all good to go. Apparently, Will Fuller's hip is hunky-dory, just like the hamstring of Kiki Cutie. I like Cutie more than I like Will Fuller this week. I have him inside my top 30, Fuller just outside the top 40. Bad matchup, obviously, against Jacksonville this week. But you don't want to play any tight end for Houston. Even if Ryan Griffin was healthy, you didn't want to play him anyway. And it does look like Donta Foreman will miss this week again, leaving Lamar Miller and Alfred Blue to split backfield touches. You want nothing to do with that situation, although I still would go pick up Foreman for a stash on the waiver wire. He's still more widely available than the Nick Chubbs and the Jalen Richards of the world. So if you missed out on those guys, he's someone to go grab. In Chicago, Allen Robinson returned to practice on Friday. He's probably not the greatest start against New England. We're not going to know his status until Sunday morning. You're going to play him if he's playing, but you might want to boost up Anthony Miller and especially Taylor Gabriel just a touch, maybe even Trey Burton as well if Allen Robinson isn't at 100% for this game. In Minnesota, Dalvin Cook left practice on Friday. He ain't playing against the Jets, so fire up some Latavius Murray. He's a low-end running back one this week. We'll see how long Dalvin Cook is going to be out for. He was a popular trade target because I thought he was coming back this week. I don't know the extent of his hamstring injury. It does seem like they're being very, very precautionary with how this is going. They don't want to get themselves into a Leonard Fournette situation where if they bring Cook back, he's instantly injured again, then he misses another 6 weeks and has to go on IR. That's something to watch out for in the coming weeks. For the Jets, Jermaine Kearse and Robbie Anderson will start because Quincy Enunwa and Robbie Anderson, or Terrell Pryor, with his groin injury, will not be playing against Minnesota. You can play Jermaine Kearse with a high degree of confidence in PPR formats. If you're looking for a long shot, Robbie Anderson's your guy. That floor is non-existent. That could be a 0-point play, could be a 30-point play. Good for DraftKings, for tournaments, but not for cash games or your weekly fantasy football lineup. In Washington, AP and Chris Thompson both likely to play. Jamison Crowder is out. Paul Richardson is doubtful. In the pecking order against against Dallas, that now leaves Josh Doxson as the number one receiver, but probably gets nullified because of the good defense, now leaving Maurice Harris and the recently reactivated Brian Quick. Remember Brian Quick? He's back. And not only in POG form, but on the field for the Washington Redskins. Don't like anyone, really. Maybe Vernon Davis gets a larger role along with Jordan Reed again. Chris Thompson's really the only one I'd be actively targeting in this game. It just seems to me like it's difficult to run on Dallas. They funnel a lot to the passing game, and if they're going to be passing, it makes a lot more sense for Chris Thompson to be on the field than Adrian Peterson, although Peterson will be the one who gets the goal line touch. It's not an enviable situation from any matter, but I do have Thompson ranked above Adrian Peterson for my PPR rankings into Week 7. I talked about the Atlanta situation with the receivers. Just know that after Ridley and Sanu got hurt last week, Justin Hardy was the one who played 54% of the snaps. Marvin Hall, only 22%. So Hardy would be the handcuff that you would want in Atlanta should those guys miss time, or if you have to wait on Ridley, or you have to wait on Sanu because they're your only options. Make sure you have Hardy at your disposal to put in if either of those guys is a late second scratch. But again, just make sure that you pay attention to the Saturday injury report to see whether those guys are practicing, or just tune in 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, DraftKings YouTube channel, PME Live, Sunday morning. We'll be here breaking down all the latest injuries and giving you the updated spin once we know more about a lot of this. Cooper Kupp is going to miss the game for the Rams. Robert Woods will shift into the slot. Josh Reynolds will play on the outside. He's playable if you need someone. Gerald Everett as a deep tight end stream could get some extra red zone work with so many red zone opportunities being lost with Cooper Kupp being on the sidelines. In Indianapolis, T.Y. Hilton is back. Ryan Grant is out. Marcus Johnson is out. Jack Doyle is out. Robert Turbin is out. It's going to be tough with Tre'Davious White locking down T.Y. Hilton. He may only be at like 70, 80%. So you play him if he's in, if you don't have better options. But Chester Rogers is still someone that I do like in this game as a potential alternate to T.Y. Hilton to see a lot of targets, potentially double digits on the opposite side or out of the slot along with Eric Ebron. Zach Pascal would be the other starter in the Colts offense should it come down to that. Travis Benjamin for the Chargers. Looks like he's going to be active in London. He's going to be a game time decision. That's going to be super early on Sunday, but he's been practicing all week on a limited basis with his foot injury. That just takes away more targets, especially deep targets from Terrell Williams, who we saw last week, and hopefully maybe it just opens up Mike Williams to start doing stuff again. Interesting scenario. Seems like a very slog type game with the Chargers and Tennessee in London this week. In Detroit, Theo Riddick has been ruled out. That means a potential boost for Kerryon Johnson in the receiving game if those like 30% of snaps that were going to Theo Riddick just go to Kerryon Johnson. So I've elevated him up in the Week 7 rankings. Theo Riddick is obviously out. LeGarrette Blount gets a mini boost as well because maybe he'll just be on the field a bit more as favorites in Miami this week. But don't be surprised if you see Amir Abdullah all of a sudden activated and taking over that Theo Riddick role, because Detroit just loves running out 3 running backs. So Kerryon Johnson, definitely not a lock, but the best chance to do something against the Dolphins this week. And the other 2 guys that are just randomly out, Gio Bernard will not make his return this week, Sunday night against Kansas City. So a lot of Joe Mixon, Mark Walton backing him up, and James O'Shaughnessy is going to be out for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if you picked him up and hope to play him, they've been suffering a lot of injuries recently at the tight end position. No ASJ, no Niles Paul, now no James O'Shaughnessy. That leaves, what the hell is this guy's name that they're rolling out here now? Let's see. David Greenidge. The Grinch. Yeah, don't play him. I have number 25 in the rankings. There's guys you can pick up before him if you need someone to spot start at tight end in week 7. Anyway, that is the injury report. Check out everything in the rankings. They will be updated before the Sunday show and again after the Sunday show to make sure they are up to date with all the actives, inactives, and all the latest news. 10 a.m. Eastern Time, PME Live. You can check that out on all the podcast feeds around 11 a.m. Eastern Time too. If you just want to go to the gym on a Sunday morning, just have it on in the background. Boom, fire it up. It's free, it's on demand, and available on any podcast service. I'm Pat Mayo. Give the episode a like I said, to enter that contest for a giveaway for $20 DK. I'll be back live Sunday and Monday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time. I'll announce the winners on the Monday show, so you'll want to be there for that. I'm Pat Mayo. Good luck in week 7. I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience! Experience!